Raising Leaders. I'm Janice Sanders. I'm from Silverton, Colorado, and I'll be co-presenting today with Alex Rowland, who's from Durango, Colorado. So I have a few questions to ask you all. How many of you out there know someone with children? How many of you out there actually have children of your own? Okay, now of both those categories, how many of you would actually like to see children, whether they're your own or others, have an opportunity to succeed at being a leader? Me too. Well, that's, I guess, why we're here today. We're here to learn about how to raise a leader. So I have a few more questions. Well, we have a little one out back there too. I have a few questions for you. What do you think makes a leader? Do you think that if you get your kid into a really, really good preschool, or if the kid gets really great grades, that they're going to be guaranteed to become a leader? Well, what if they go to an Ivy League school? I used to have dreams that my kids would go to an Ivy League school. Would that make them a leader? Well, maybe and maybe not. You know, if we think back in our lives, we've all known somebody in our life, maybe a teacher, maybe a coach that we had, and maybe they just volunteered to be that coach, or they volunteered to run a craft class after school, and they had no skill set for it, they had no knowledge, but you accepted them as a leader. Why is that? Probably because there's something else going on. For example, I have a niece who, she really struggled with grades in school. She didn't graduate at the top of her class. She did graduate, however, from high school, but when she did graduate, her Spanish teacher told her that the only reason that she passed Spanish was because she had a lovely smile, not because she had good grades. She managed to get into a college, not one of the top tier colleges, but a college that was kind of known as a party college. And when she got there, she did end up graduating. She finally figured out that she wanted to go into outdoor pursuits. And upon graduating, she went to the big metropolis of Silverton to work. She wanted to work in the outdoor industry, so she got a job at one of the ski areas up there. And she worked there for probably 2 years when she realized that that job wasn't going to go anywhere. She then moved to a larger town with more people, and she got an entry-level job at a corporation called Altera. And with this entry job, she stayed in that position for 3 months or so, and then they promoted her to assistant manager. And then after a short time after that, by the end of the year, she became manager of over 3 of their retail stores. She stayed in that position for a while, and then she got moved into upper management. And after being in that position for a little bit, she became the head of human resources for Altera Corporation, who employs over 2,000 people a year. She is personally responsible for helping to hire 1,000 people each year in a seasonal industry. But how did she get to do that? She didn't have the grades, right? She didn't have the knowledge to be head of human resources, and she didn't have the skill set, yet people accepted her as a leader. So why is that? If it's not grades or Ivy League schools, well, there must be something else going on. And that's what we're here to learn today. We're here to learn the deeper causes that make the surface causes work. And when we learn those deeper causes, we're going to use them to get what we want, to become leaders. Now, this is a course called Raising Leaders. So we have a group of adults here. Why would we have adults here if our purpose is to raise children as leaders? Well, if you've been around kids or you have children yourself, you often know that you can tell your kids many, many times that you want them to do something. But do they actually do it? Do they always do it? No, but what do they end up doing? They end up doing what they see you do. They end up doing what you do. So it's important for us to learn how to become leaders ourselves so that we can become a living example so we can help our children. Now, where did this information come from? We didn't make it up. Thank you. We didn't make it up. This information that we are teaching today comes from an ancient book from ancient Asian classics. It is called the Diamond Cutter Sutra, and it was written nearly 2,500 years ago. And it's been used for millennia for people all over the world that have access to this book for success in many areas of their lives, not just becoming leaders. It also has the techniques and the tools to help you have financial freedom, to create beautiful relationships, and to have great health and inner peace. And finally, it also has a tool to help us learn how to be the person who has the kind of success that can influence the whole world. Now, we are teaching it today because we have studied with a person who used these tools to create a really big business, and that's Geshe Michael Roach. He, along with 3 other people, started Anden International in New York City. Anden International is a diamond company, and he started it along with the owner's wife, and another person, 4 people. They started in a small office in New York City, 1 desk, and $50,000 in debt. And in a short amount of time, they took that, using the techniques from the Diamond Cutter, the ancient book, they took that business from $50,000 in debt to over $148 million a year in annual sales. And then they sold it to Warren Buffett. Well, this, of course, drew the attention of the financial community in New York City. So, at that time, Doubleday Press asked Geshe Michael to write a book about how he achieved such amazing success in such a short amount of time. And so he wrote this book called The Diamond Cutter. And inside this book are all the techniques that we'll be teaching you today. This book is one of the best-selling business books throughout the world, really, and it's now translated into 24 languages, and Geshe Michael goes around and teaches this course in over 35 cities around the world every year, to about, he says approximately 30,000 people every year. And Alex and I have been studying with Geshe Michael for over 7 years. And when he opened a college called the Sedona College of International Management, we both applied and we were both accepted. And since that time, we've been to 8 intensive study courses at that college. And the last of those courses that we went to was called Automatic Leadership. We were so taken by it and all the other tools that we've learned there that we immediately came back and started using the techniques in our own business and in our own lives. And we've had great results. And that is why we're here today. Because we know it works and we want to share the techniques with other people so that they can teach other people. And then they'll teach other people. And then we'll all be part of raising leaders. So a little bit of history about Alex and I. I'm from Silverton, Colorado, as I mentioned, and I have several businesses up there, and that's where I use that as my experimental field of using these techniques to prove to myself that they work. Alex Rowland is a realtor for the Wales Group. She's a broker for the Wales Group, and she's used these tools with her team. She has a team of 5 people, and she's had great results, and we know it works. So let's get started. So, another question. Why would you want to become a leader? And why would you maybe not want to become a leader? Well, in order to, here we are, there's Alex and I. I do often forget this little tool. Why would you want to become a leader? Well, first of all, we need to know what the definition of a leader is. And the definition of a leader, according to the ancient Asian history in the Diamond Cutter, a leader is someone who can take a group of people to a better place. Now that might sound like a really, really simple definition of what a leader is. And it is. Because if you really think about it, if something's true, if something's correct, it doesn't take a lot of words to describe it. So again, a leader is someone who can take a group of people to a better place. And in this ancient wisdom, the definition of leader takes on 3 different parts. There's a leader must be knowing, caring, and have strength. And in the definition, the knowing part, the leader must have to be a good leader. The leader has to know where a group of people are right now. And they have to know where they can be next week, what the group's potential is. Leaders can take you to that place. For instance, in the family,
maybe right now our family's in a, they come home from school and they just lay on the couch, they start texting friends or start working on video games or eating junk food. And the leader of that family sees that that family could be at a better place. So the next week, that family, with that leader, they guide them to a place where the kids actually interact with one another, and maybe the family starts eating healthier food. Or in a business sense, as a leader in a business sense, we might have a group or a team of people, and we can see where their potential is. We can take them and help them to all have financial freedom. So the leader has to be knowing. And if you think about it, we've all seen people who know that we could improve. But if they don't help us, if they don't care enough about us, what's the point? They're not going to make sure that we get to our potential. So a leader also has to be caring. They have to care enough about us to help us get where we could be. So a leader is knowing, a leader is caring, they care enough about how to get us there. And finally, that leader has to have strength. They can have knowing and caring, but if they don't have the strength to help you follow up, then nothing's going to happen. So a good leader has to be knowing, caring, and have strength. And if a leader has those qualities, even if it's your child, we can teach our children to have those qualities so that on the playground, if they see something going on and they don't have the knowing, caring, and strength, they'll just follow anybody. But if they understand the qualities of a good leader, and a good leader will only guide you to a better place, they're not going to follow somebody to start hassling another kid. So there's lots of reasons to be a good leader. There are other reasons to become a leader. For instance, there are lower motivations. All of us really like attention from other people. Like if you walk into a room, you want people to greet you and recognize you. So perhaps we want to be a leader for attention and admiration of the people around us. Or sometimes we want to become a leader because we want to be the boss of how things work out in our life. We want to control our destiny. And we often mistake the controlling of our own destiny to controlling the lives of others without knowing what those others might need in their lives, without caring about them, and without the strength to help them get where they want to be. And that's not the type of leader we want to become. But if your motivation to become a leader is to help other people get to a better place, then that's what we're going to learn today. And up next, Alex is going to teach you a few more techniques before we get to the juicy part of the steps to bring you all to leadership.
Thank you, Janice. Thank you all for being here today. We really appreciate you coming. The diamond cutter system that we're teaching comes from the Asian classics, as Janice mentioned. And what Geshe Michael and his staff do is they find the old books, they translate them often into English and languages around the world, and then they look for things that can help us in our modern life today. One of the texts that Geshe Michael uses is the Abhidharma Kosha, which was written in 350 AD by Master Vasubandhu. He's one of our heroes. And he tells a story called The Four Emperors. The Four Emperors is a story which illustrates what it is to be a leader. So in the ancient story, the way this goes is that there were world emperors, and a world emperor would show up in their giant spaceship. The spaceship was 2 miles wide, and the world emperor, the golden world emperor, would have a golden spaceship. So he comes, or she walks down the stairs of her spaceship, and everyone in the world was waiting for her. So happy to see you, we're glad you're here, please rule us. So this golden emperor had this special something that we're talking about, where they were automatically seen as a leader, whether they went to Harvard or the best preschool in town. Then the next level of world emperor, called the silver emperor, shows up in their giant, mile-wide silver spaceship and walks down the stairs, and only some of the people are kind of happy to see them. And then this emperor has to do what you're familiar with if you're an American. Every 2 years, they have to go on the campaign trail. So they have to start convincing people that they would make a good leader, and it's a lot more work. The next type of emperor who comes is the copper emperor. Their spaceship is only a half a mile wide, copper spaceship. They arrive to lead the world, they walk down the stairs, and nobody is interested at all. So what they have to do is they have to let people know on this world that they brought some nuclear weapons with them, and they're in the back of the spaceship. All of a sudden, everyone's a lot more interested, and like, oh, you know, sure, go ahead, you can lead us. That would be fine. The last kind of world emperor shows up, and again, they arrive at a world where nobody cares about having them as their leader, and they actually roll out the nuclear weapons and point them at the Earth. And sure enough, everyone is fine with that. Sure, you be the leader. The kind of leader that we're talking about today is the automatic leader, the gold emperor, where you're just recognized as a leader, so that you don't have to fight or campaign or convince people that you have the qualities of leadership. And that's what we want to be able to teach you today, that you can share with the people around you and the kids in your life. I have 2 children. Janice and I know each other because of our children, actually. We met when Kelly and Morgan met in high school, and they're now about 25, I think. I also have a younger daughter, Mariah, who's 23. And when Mariah was in 1st grade, at the end of 1st grade, I had an interview with her teacher, and her teacher told me that Mariah was not going to pass 1st grade. As you can imagine, I wasn't really happy about that. We all think that our children are going to be able to be high achievers. So to find out in 1st grade that they want to hold your child back was a little bit upsetting. Well, it turned out Mariah really didn't have the skills needed to read. So I advocated for her, and she was able to go on to 2nd grade, where she got the help she needed in reading lab and speech, a wonderful 2nd grade teacher who took an interest in her particular situation. That 2nd grade teacher had the knowing, caring, and strength to make sure that that child learned what she needed to do to succeed. So some of you know Mariah, and you know that she has done pretty well. In high school, she really blossomed in science, and she applied for a lot of scholarships. And she wrote all these essays, and she was in competition with many other children to get scholarships. There's a particular scholarship here in the Colorado region which pays for an entire free ride. And it's very competitive, and there's different levels, and as you go through the levels, they eliminate some of the kids. All these kids were very qualified. They came from great backgrounds with lots of interests. They had, you know, a lot of qualities of a leader, and leadership qualities is one of the things that they're looking for in this Daniels Fund. Excuse me. So I was surprised as Mariah hung in there through the elimination rounds, because Mariah, if you know her, or if you don't know her, I'll let you know, usually her socks didn't match. And she often wore the oddest outfits to school. She really didn't seem to have the qualities of a leader in what I would have thought as a leader. She didn't clean her room, which as a mother was something that upset me. But strangely, this panel of adults that chose the child who could get this scholarship did see something in Mariah. So there's something going on here, because Mariah beat a lot of other people and got this great scholarship. So that's a story about an automatic leader. It's a kind of inexplicable. And I love Mariah. She's now a microbiologist in Seattle, very successful after completing her college education. What we want to emphasize with the story of the 4 emperors is how versus why. Mariah and when the emperor showed up in their spaceship, that's how they got to be the leader of the world. Mariah applied for the scholarships, and she went through the steps, and she worked hard. But why did she get it over somebody else? And that is what we like to investigate in the Diamond Cutter system. We want to know why some people are more successful than others. we're going to be looking at the deeper causes of success. The surface causes are the school you go to, the support you get to write those applications and things. But there's something going on here, and that's what we're going to be investigating more deeply. And Janice is going to come on to give us one of the most important tools in the diamond cutter system. Thanks, Janice.
Thank you. Thank you, Alex. Aha. If you've been to any of these talks before, you know you've heard about the pen. So the pen thing is one of the foundation tools of DCI. You can't go to a diamond cutter presentation, which this is, and Alice and I are Diamond X speakers affiliated with Diamond Cutter. But all Diamond Cutter presentations have the pen thing because it's a foundation tool to get you thinking about where your world comes from. We all want to know that. So I want you to just pay attention. I'm going to ask some questions. No tricks here. Just going to ask some questions, and I would like you to participate by answering, okay? So what is this thing?
A
pen. That's great. Everybody knows it's a pen. Okay, now this is Durango, and many people here have dogs. They have dogs, and they have racks on their car, because it's a very outdoor community. So if there's one of your little dogs, and it happens to be a little puppy, and I saw the puppy, and I was so excited to see it, and I asked it to come up here, and I handed this to him. Here you go. What are they going to do with it? What's the dog going to do with this?
Gonna chew it.
Yeah, they're going to chew it. Yeah, a dog's probably going to chew it. They wouldn't see this as a pen, would they? They would see it as a chew toy, something to chew on. Well, who's right? Is the dog right, or is the person right? Well, you're right. I mean, you could shrug. Maybe they're both right. They are both right. The dog can use it as a chew toy, and I can equally as well use it to write a note to someone. Now, the next question is, suppose I put this thing right here. Oops, I don't know if I can put, yeah. I put this thing right there. And then, you know, the talk's finished and we're all leaving. All the dogs, all the people, they leave the room, okay? We left the room. And the last one out, that's me, because, you know, I'm trying to be very responsible. The last one out turns off the light and shuts the door. And right now, this room is empty of people and it's empty of dogs. At that moment, when there's no one in the room, what is that thing? Is it a pen or is it a chew toy? You're right when you shrug. Anybody else? Right, it's both. It's available. It's available to become whatever the observer sees it as. And that means you've just understood emptiness. It's no more difficult than that. It's like a blank screen waiting for someone to identify it and to put something onto it. So my next question is, you know, I got out to my car and I forgot my keys. So I have to come back into the room and I'm looking for my keys. I walk back in, and instead of my keys, I see this thing lying here on the table. At that moment, what does that thing become?
Whatever you know what it's for.
Right, right. It becomes a pen, or whatever I recognize it to be. So, if the dog came back into the room with me, what would they still see? Chew toy. Okay, so there are two realities going on. Two absolutely correct realities. The dog sees a chew toy, and the person sees a pen. Now think about this. If the pen only becomes a pen when the human walks into the room, is the identity of the pen coming from the pen, or is the identity of the pen coming from me? So show me with your hands. Is the identity coming from me, or is it coming pen? From me, right. Otherwise the dog would see a pen and the dog doesn't see a pen. So the identity, the pen only becomes a pen when the human walks into the room. Well, that's kind of cool. So this pen is coming from me. Well, if the pen is coming from me, does that make it possible that I could just make this pen into anything I wanted? I mean, we just said the pen's coming from me, right? So could I just wish really hard and make this pen into a double chocolate fudge cake? My birthday's coming up. So could I do that? Could I maybe wish this was in a double chocolate cake? I mean, how many of you guys like chocolate? Okay, we all like chocolate. So maybe if we wish together, we just maybe use positive thoughts and visualization, we could wish this pen was anything but a pen. We wish it was a chocolate cake. Well, let's give it a try, okay? Wish with me, you guys. Close your eyes. Wish, wish, wish. Okay, 1, 2, 3. No, it's still a pen. Well, that means just because the pen is coming from me doesn't mean I can make it into anything I want. We just proved that, right? Well, that's because there must be something else going on. The pen is coming from me, but that doesn't make it possible for me to change it to something. And we've all seen people who want things, but they don't necessarily get them. So where does that pen come from? Well, maybe last week I shared a pen with someone. And my mind, let's see, I shared a pen with someone. And that made an imprint in my mind. Like my mind works like a video camera. And it records everything I think, everything I hear myself say, and everything I do. And last week when I shared a pen with someone, my mind recorded that action. And it made a little seed in my mind. And when I walk into the room now, and I see this thing, that video recorder in my mind puts a little picture in my mind, and when I see this object, that picture slaps onto the pen, and I see a pen. All from something that I saw myself doing last week. I planted a seed, and now I'm getting the result of the seed. When I shared the pen, it created a cause. And that cause is now a result, me seeing a pen. Now, think very carefully about this. If everything we see ourselves doing, everything we all the words we hear ourselves hearing or thinking creates a cause that's going to result later into the world around us, how can we use that? Well, if we're not having a great life right now, then we now have an idea. If the world, the identity of everything is coming from us, that everything we see ourselves doing makes a cause, we could start planting the causes right now for the results we want next week. We can start planting the deeper causes today to become a leader in our future. And we're going to get into that more. And Alex is going to teach you how to use this tool to plant what you want in your future with wisdom. She's going to show you the fine details of the 4 steps. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, Janice. The 4 steps. We learned the foundation tool of DCI, which is the pen. The pen means that we're not all seeing the same things the same way. And I think if you think about that, you know it's true. If I'm standing up here and you're all looking at me, you're all seeing and thinking about me in a different way. And if my mother was here or my brother was here, they would see me different as well. So for each of you, there's actually a different reality of me. And there's a different reality that I'm seeing myself too. For leadership, this means that it's not fixed. Really, this is the most important thing. What we're going to see tomorrow is not fixed, and we have the ability to influence it. And that's what the 4 steps are. The 4 steps is the diamond cutter system way of making sure that we know what we want to create, that we decide what we want, and that we have a powerful and quick way of creating that. So the first step in any 4-step plan is you have to decide what you want. It has to be one simple sentence and it has to be measurable. I've found as I've worked with this system that that's not always easy. And it's one of the reasons why we get a lot of mixed results in our lives, is because we don't know exactly what we want. So part of this is just to take the time, maybe find someone else who's not sure what they want, and talk with them about it, so you can have a very set idea of what you want. So in this case, with leadership, if you want to influence the people and the children around you to be stronger leaders, that might be your what you want. Second simple step is to find someone else who wants the same thing. Janice and I are tricking you a little bit because we're working on our leadership skills. And then by inviting you guys here, we're getting to share what we know about leadership with you. And so we're actually automatically planting some strong seeds to become better leaders in our community, in our families. If you look around, there will be people who want the same thing that you want. Sometimes people think, well, what I want is very specific and nobody else seems to want it. But if you start looking, we think you'll find that there's a lot of people who want the same things you want. Do it. That sounds easy, 2 little words. It's not always an easy thing. We suggest that when you find somebody who wants the same thing, you meet with them once a week at a regular time. And you just don't have to know how to help them. Just by being there brainstorming with them, offering them support is going to help you plant a powerful seed. So we're going to plant a seed right now, a real seed. We're going to work with something simple, more simple than leadership, which is a little bit of an intangible quality. So let's work with something that's a little bit more solid. And one of the easiest things to manifest, really, and that is money. So I want more money. I want enough money to be able to go on a tropical vacation this fall. Okay? I want enough money to take a tropical vacation this fall. That's a simple sentence. Now, do I have to find somebody who wants to take a tropical vacation? Not necessarily. Although there might be one person in this room who would like to do that with me. But it's just important that I find someone who wants something similar. Okay? So, what I need to do is I need to plant a seed, right? Okay, so is there anyone in this room who wants money, who also needs money? Raise your hand if you could use a little extra cash. All right, Devin, would you mind helping me with my demonstration? Can you come up here? Thank you so much. We'll see, won't we? We'll see what happens. Okay, and what is your name? Devin. And do you want money, Devin?
Yes.
Okay, so I identified that Devin wants money. And you're okay with helping me with this?
Yeah.
Okay, good. And she's okay with helping me with my demonstration. Could you put your hand out? Good. And can you lift it up a little bit higher? Great. So everybody can see. Okay. So I'm going to plant a real seed right now. 1, 2, 3. Good. So in that moment, the money went from me to Devin, right? Now who saw that happen?
I did.
Janice saw. Okay, everyone in here saw. Devin saw. But most importantly for our purposes is I saw. The image of me releasing that money, of sharing what I have, went into my mind through the windows of my eye, and it made an impression, like pressing into your flesh. It made an impression on my mind, and that impression sits in there, and then later on, when the conditions are ripe, it's going to grow. It's just like an acorn. It starts small, and it's going to grow into a giant tree, if it has the right conditions. Thank you very much, Devin. Great, that's for you. You can take your family out for lunch. You're a great sport. So what are the right conditions to make sure that that seed that I just planted grows strong? And that's the 4th step. We call this coffee meditation. The reason it's called coffee meditation is because the best time to do it is at night, right before you go to sleep. At the end of the day, we're often discouraged and tired, and our minds can turn negative at that time. So what we'd like you to do is, when you lie down in bed, don't just fall asleep right away. That's why it's called coffee meditation. Maybe you need to drink a little caffeine in the afternoon to make sure that you have enough energy left at the end of the day to review your day and think about what you did during your day that was helpful to somebody else. Remember, everything that we think, everything that we say, and everything that we do during the day is planting a seed. It's making an impression on our mind. So at the end of the day, this is when we add water and fertilizer to the really helpful things that we did for other people, ways that we were able to contribute or help somebody. And most importantly, if you have a 4-step plan that you're working on, like getting a tropical vacation, to prove this system to yourself that it works, you're going to remember how you shared your financial abundance with somebody. And you're going to picture Devin being surprised that she randomly got $100. And you know, it's not a bad thing. So Devin smile, how she was happy, and what she'll be able to do with that money, that she'll be able to help somebody else with that. Great. Well, that's the 4 steps. We're going to have time for question and answer a little bit later, but right now we want to just give you guys a chance to take a break. If you need to use the restroom, if you need to grab coffee, we have some snacks. And then when you come back, we're going to be talking about what are the deep causes of leadership. We've talked about some surface causes with education, a supportive family, experience, but what is that special something that causes the Golden Emperor to be accepted as a leader, or Mariah to inexplicably beat out all the other kids and get a great scholarship? So we'll see you back here in 5 or 10 minutes.